Now, if you've used your equine height and weight tape, specifically the weight side of the tape, and you've wrapped it around their heart girth, and there's on this end all little numbers, and I will show you on the video how to do it, and you've got a rough estimate of how much your horse weighs, you can look at the guidelines on the side of the bag of food, and you can see what a good guideline is to feed your horse. But a guideline isn't the end of what you should do to feed your horse. And I'm going to give you some examples here. Alright? Here's the suppers of 5 horses. 3 of them are horses, 2 of them are ponies. Really, actually, one of them's borderline a pony. And it's going to be hard for you to guess whose is whose. Alright? I'm sure you're going to say this is a pony's and this is a pony's, and you're only half right. This belongs to the biggest horse in the barn, and this belongs to a pony. These 2 amounts of feed belong to ponies who are the same size. These 2 amounts of feed belong to horses that are the same size. And this amount of feed, the size of this, belongs to a horse that's still a little bit too hard to chew, and that's actually a size I think that could be kind of easily choked on. So what I do is I wet that down. So this horse and this horse get their food wet down a little bit before they eat it. But wait until you see the different sizes, because even though this horse and this horse are essentially the same size, there is a vast difference. This horse gets about 3 or 4 times the amount that this horse gets. Wait and see. And these 2 ponies are a very similar size. They're very, very similar size. And sort of similar stature. Kimba looks more relaxed, but look at the difference in the quantity of grain that they eat. Kimba's is on the left, and the Governor's is on the right. Now, I will grant you that in addition to the 14% Sweet Feed Complete Mix, there is some complete hay pellets in there in the bottom. Let me fish one out to show you what it looks like, so that there is also hay in there, because Kimba has little breathing issues, so he gets his wet down. So in the bottom there is some of that, because the Governor can eat hay and Kimba can't. But this is just an example of 2 ponies who are very similar, who eat very different amounts, and who maintain a fairly similar weight. Although, I would say, by looking at Kimba, well, what do you think? Could he lose a calorie or not? I think he looks pretty good. The food on the left is Jesse's, and the grain on the right is Nessa's. And there's no filler in there, there's no hay stretcher pellets, there's nothing. He gets about 2 pounds, she gets a little more than a cup. And that, a cup and some hay, is what maintains this horse, and it takes several pounds 2 times a day to maintain that horse. So even though you would think by the instructions on the side of the package that these horses should be eating a similar amount and that they would end up weighing a similar amount, Jesse on more grain is lighter in body than Nessa on much less grain. So although there is certainly a science to feeding horses, look at that. Nessa's is on the right, Jesse's is on the left. So there's the common sense to feeding. If your horse looks fat, feed it a little less. And you have to do this gradually. You can't do it all at once. And you have to really be careful about feeding it too much because it could do something called founder. Google founder for horses and you'll see how horrifying founder can be. Maybe we'll talk about it on another day. But also, if your horse looks too thin, then, and I'm not using Jessie as an example of thin, I think Jessie is actually pretty close to perfect. If your horse looks too thin, by the same token, feed it more, even if you're feeding it what the package says. So use your eye as a gauge. Coincidentally, and strangely, even with Jessie getting much more food than Nessa, who's getting much less food, Jessie is doing almost no work, no exercise, and Nessa is doing more work, more exercise. So she's getting less food and doing more exercise, and he's doing almost no exercise and getting more food. Look at that. Strange. So you do have to use your eye as a gauge in the final analysis.